Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. It's good to be back, and those of you may see it, but I got a new little mascot. I drew him up, I designed him and everything. He looks lovely, amazing, a nice little angel. Long term, I do want to design a VTuber. I just know that's going to take me a very long time. But I do like the angelic design I went with him. This is just a nice still as a placeholder until I work up the time and courage to actually rig and design the VTuber properly. But right now, as the excuse me, but right now, as the title suggests, I am working on a new teaser. Now, I do have plans. I've already planned and plotted out my sort of pilot trailer. Well, my pilot, my whole entire pilot. And to sort of test my skills as well as test my story skills, I'm going to be working on a segment from the teaser trailer. So for starters, I am going to use this layer and I'm going to set up a nice gray background just so I don't have that white color sort of obscuring me or causing me to like lose concentration or anything like that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So this specific segment, I will give it the benefit of the doubt and extend it to 5 seconds. But more than likely, I am going to try to time things for about 3 seconds, or at least 3 seconds of actual animation. So now that I have that, I then want to work on the grid. And it's a good thing I use my character sheets because my overarching plan, and you guys are going to see this as I work on the animation further, is to sort of have a establishing shot, or not an establishing shot, but just I want to give this idea of dread to the character. So real quick, I'm gonna switch over to my black. And so what's gonna happen is we're gonna have this horizon line right about here, and what I want is for it to go up like this and then widen out and go down here. So real quick, I do actually want to have some red right here just so I can sort of give an idea or presence of an ankle. Now then, for the character, this is going to be rather slow, so I'm going to space out. Oh, and just a heads up, I do in fact the previous animation I was working on that is finished. I just need to put it through what's that thing called? I just need to put it through After Effects and then I can finish compositing it and then I'll have that up likely if it's not up by the end of the day, more than likely I'll have it done by tomorrow. My compositing skills still aren't the best because I have to be self taught and I have to work on and learn everything by myself. It's taken me some time to really get used to all the programs. So for this layer, I do want to alter the opacity just a little bit. I think 50 or 50 is a bit too light. So let me actually bring it up to maybe 65 actually. Or 70 could be better. Yeah, that is a lot better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lock this. And I am going to lock this frame, but only temporarily. Now for this model, I will say because I'm using a lot of dark colors, I do want to stay on the lighter side of the spectrum. I won't use black because it's already what consists of the background, the lines that establish the background. So let's see, what's a good color I can use for the character model? Blue would be a bit too easy for me. Like using a turquoise blue, that could have some more issues than advantages. So what I might end up doing is actually using, oddly enough, purple or like a dark purple. Like, yeah, that'd be pretty good. And I don't know why, I just find myself using purple more often. Blue is still my favorite character. Yeah, blue is still my favorite color, but I do like purple a lot. At least I've grown to like purple now. Perhaps it's because of my college. I did go to ECU, so like purple is my next favorite color, I guess. Purple and gold. But purple is also biblical, so that's pretty good too. Now for this model, it is going to be, I want to say torso down. Now, because the character is angled down, I will have to foreshorten some things. So usually when it comes to this modeling of the character, what I like to do in my process is I actually like to draw the true shape of the face and then I will foreshorten it. So under normal circumstances, the chin would be down to here, and then I would size it to where the where is it? Not the perineum. Basically, below the pec line. Under normal circumstances, it would actually be using regular, like the chest would be right here, or like the sternum. That's what I'm looking for. Usually, if I was using regular sizing and regular, dang, I'm so into drawing right now that I'm forgetting it. That's how you know I'm deep in it. Usually, I'm the kind of person where if I am super into what I'm doing, then sometimes my brain will actually shut off and I'll only solely focus on the art. That's really what's happening right now with me, is where I'm so focused on trying to figure out the art that I am almost shutting down and I'm only focusing on the art. So if it was a regular portrait I was doing, the sternum would be right here. But because it's foreshortened, because of the angling I'm going for, I actually have to bring up the sternum to about right here. And what that's going to do is it's also going to bring the neck up to where the clavicle bones are going to be. I'm going to say the clavicle bones are going to be brought up higher about right here. And then the actual neck is going to come forward from the side of the head rather than being more down to the base of the neck. So the true sternum is right here. And then again, because it's foreshortened, that means that the body is actually going to be exaggerated just a little bit. But I do want to keep my proportions correctly. So usually when it comes to your pecs, the width of your pecs is going to be the same width as your head. So your torso is just 2 pec lengths long. And then when it comes to your shoulders is going to be half a head light wide. Half a head width wide. My bad. So there's an imaginary line in between here, between the sternum. And then the pec is going to be about right here. Now, despite the angling, I do want to give the figure this sort of slumped expression. So these shoulders are going to droop down just a little bit, and I do have to keep that size and consistency of the half head with. So usually when it comes to shoulders, if you're standing up straight, they're going to be more up. These are actually down because the character figure is slumping. So again, with the other one, right here. Now I am going to have to do some further foreshortening for the torso as well, because that's just the sternum. So things are going to get a little bit packed up. Let's see here real quick. So let's top of the head to the sternum. Should be right here. Then from the sternum to the top of the waist, which is going to be right here. That then gets foreshortened to about right here. So that means that his belly button is actually going to be where his sternum was supposed to be. And so if the belly button is where the sternum is supposed to be, that means that that better aligns and coincides with the biceps because... Hey Coral, how's it going? Welcome to Owoh's Corner. How you been? I'm working on a new teaser, so that's what I've been doing. I've been working on my proportions with this scene. I was actually sitting up at my desk for like 30 minutes. The reason why I'm starting my stream late is because I was sitting and I was wondering, I already finished my new mascot, and then I also finished the animation I was working with prior. So I'm like, what am I going to stream about? And then that's when literally the Lord just came to me and he said, hey, why don't you work on a scene from your teaser trailer? And I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I am working on this scene, which is going to be a little segment. Well, I mean, your job comes first. I mean, if my voice is that soothing to where you can listen to my stream, then so be it. But your job should come first. Don't risk your job just to listen to me. Exactly, his Lord did. Essentially, yeah. Like God just came to me and He said, "Hey, if you're having trouble figuring out what your stream is gonna be, then just work on this teaser for a little bit. Like I am gonna need a whole team for it down the line, but if I can work on just this little segment, because I already have some characters, like I already have some character designs, I have planned and I have plotted out. So if I can like work on this and do just a little teaser of this, then that would be nice." Look, in everything I do, I always go by faith. Like that's just how I've been. Even recently when Lord have mercy, I got into it on X. Okay, on X on Twitter, I got into it. Oh, that's good. Well, I'm glad I could help you wind down. But I freaking got into it on X. I don't even know if my X is on my freaking computer that I can show the screenshots, but I got freaking into it. Like folks are coming after me. I said like, "Hey, you guys need to decentralize from Hollywood," and then folks kept saying like, "Oh, we got mortgages and it's impossible. We need something to do now." And I'm like, "Dude, like there are different means to do it. Like you have different small business loans, small business grants that cover equipment and services like that. There are programs with local colleges that you can get. Like folks just want to stay in Hollywood. And I hate to say it, but like they're really showing their ass. That's really all I can say is because I felt conviction to share with them like, "Hey, decentralize from Hollywood, go back to your hometown, source local talent there." And then they just want to dig their heels in Hollywood. It's like at this point it's really just a sickness because I got freaking attacked. And let me actually read from my phone what one person said to me. And I was just going on a back and forth on Twitter with these people like yesterday. Like one person literally called me a fan. Like they quote retweeted me and they said lots of these types of comments from fans, and I know y'all mean well, but one, animation workers don't have the capital to overhaul the whole system. Number two, most workers are just trying to get by and pay their bills. We're fighting for our basic needs. And then I had to go in and say, one, I'm not just a fan, but I got my bachelor's degree in media. Two, I'm an animator who's been trying to get into the industry for like 2 years since graduating. Three, I already have plans to start my own animation studio. And four, long term, decentralizing is going to make more jobs for people. Like I literally, when I weighed in, those folks literally just called me a fan. I got called freaking a fan after everything I've done and tried to do, and all these different steps I've tried to take. I get labeled a freaking fan. And then folks, other commenters are just doubling down. And they're saying like, "Oh, every time I see someone claim that animation should just set up their own studios, I just want to scream out, most of these people can't afford rent and basic health care. Do you seriously expect every single one of them to set up multiple indie studios?" And then I literally had to inform them that living outside of Hollywood is vastly cheaper, that cities around the US provide low interest loans, small business grants, and office spaces, and that many industry animators also have networks. That's how they get their work in the first place, through knowing somebody. Like, I literally had to remind them that, hey, you guys have the network and you guys have the social capital, and living outside of Hollywood would be better. And then this dude had the nerve to say, you guys know we're a national union, right? People do live outside of LA and work remote. We're fighting for people to keep that right. Next talking point. And then I replied back and I said, actually, let me see if I can actually pull this up. Let me see if my ex is connected to. Oh, it is. I do have it. But Lord have mercy, I'm just getting into drama. I didn't do nothing to nobody, and then folks want to freaking come for me. Like, what is this? I'm just trying to work on my animation, and folks are coming after me. So this is a conversation that happened. Lots of these types of comments from fans, and I know y'all mean well, but one, animation workers don't have the capital to overhaul a whole system. Like, that's what was said. And then every time I see someone claim that animation should just set up their own studios, I just want to scream out. Most of these people can't afford rent and basic healthcare. Do you seriously expect every single one of them to set up multiple indie studios? Living outside of Hollywood is vastly cheaper. Cities across the U.S. also provide low interest loans, small business. I told them that. He said, you guys know we're a national union, right? People do live outside of LA and work remote. We're fighting for people to keep that right. Next talking point. And then that's when I said, so I already told him, I already said, like, hey, you guys say national, but a bulk of every industry position I see on LinkedIn, Indeed, Monster, animatedjobs.com, and other listing sites says Los Angeles, California, or remote with the ability to commute to California, unless you industry folks have underground listings. Because that's the truth. Like, these folks, and that's how they really get by, is they have a lot of underground listings and they have a lot of word of mouth. That's really how they get their jobs. Like, when it comes to sites like LinkedIn and Indeed and Monster, those are just job listings for, I want to say, legal issues, like legal reasons. Like, when a company has open positions legally, they have to platform those positions in some way. But in all actuality, these animators are going from job to job saying, hey, hire this person, hey, don't hire that person. And then this guy wants to say, like, oh, do you think the union dictates where the jobs are? Or the corporations who, by the way, are the ones forcing these return to office mandates to justify their leases? We like being able to work from everywhere. Also, most people get their jobs from word of mouth / personal recommendations. So if you're using those websites, it's probably not gonna help you. Just FYI. Like, I already know that. Like I already knew these people. Some of these people are low down and dirty. Like, I just hate to say that, but I gotta speak from the soul right now. Some of these people, they just have their clicks. They have their two or three people they're gonna recommend, and then literally fuck everybody else. And so that's when I said that merely proves my point of the need to decentralize from Hollywood and establish more studios abroad. I never got recommendations or word of mouth, and no one ever took a chance on me. And 2 years post grad, I've scrapped, brainstormed my own IPs and business models, and plan to go indie. And so after I said that, this dude has the nerve to say, listen, I have nothing against you. You seem well meaning, but misinformed. 2 years is nothing. It took me 8 years to break in. I know people it took over 10. It's time for you to be listening and learning from your elders, not telling us how to fight. And that was very freaking disrespectful. So I just had to pull out the Bible on him. And I said, look, Jeremiah, was said to be around 70 to 20 years old when God called him to prophesy. And Isaiah 58:1 says to cry loud and spare not. And I just said straight up, I'm gonna keep telling people to decentralize and use their local resources and talent to help establish themselves. I'm a man of faith. God got me this far. And that's true because God got me this far. I've said in multiple streams, I've said multiple times, like, hey, this person didn't want to take a chance on me. This person told me to give up on animation. This person said that person said the other. Like, I've applied to hundreds of industry jobs and positions, all internships, all entry level, and I either got rejected or ghosted. Like, it's literally God that got me this far. God told me to start my channel. God told me to work on my own IP, my own teaser trailer, my own everything. God has guided me this far to get as far as I am. And now he warned me not to go to LA. Like, that's why I didn't move to LA. That's why I didn't move to Hollywood. Was because I felt a conviction in my soul and my spirit telling me, hey, something bad's going to happen. Don't move to Hollywood. And lo and behold, like a year or two later, we got actor strike. We got writer strikes. We got an animation strike now. And these tag guys, they just want to stay their feet 10 toes down and stay in Hollywood, even though the writing is on the wall. And they should be trying to decentralize. And where else? And here's another person by the name of Zach Reacts. And they freaking quote retweeted me. And here's the thing is, like, a lot of these people, they like to quote retweet, but they don't really respond to your replies like that. This person is saying, like, well, obviously that's what they should do, but that's a lot easier said than done because that requires a lot of money. Hollywood didn't just bring up overnight. And so I told this same person again, various cities across the U.S. provide low interest loans and small business grants for businesses as well as office space. Like, really, the only way to combat these people is to inform them. Like, I hate to say it, but I don't even hate to say it. Like, that's just the truth. That's just the gospel truth, is that knowledge is power and information is power. Like, you do realize that it's more than just the physical space that is part of business, right? There's equipment, positions to fill, marketing, distribution, merchandising. It's a lot more than just having a building. And then I said small business grants cover equipment and furnishings. Startups, because they're small, usually have cross position role filling. Like, when you are working with a startup, more than likely you are going to be having people doing more on their workload than they would normally be doing. And then as the company grows, that's when you can hire more positions. Like, these are, like, I'm not saying that you should just start a business and everything's going to be easy. No, I'm saying you can start your own studio, you can start your own business. It's going to be hard, but over time, for the long run, for the industry, it is going to be easier. It is going to be better long term for the industry if multiple people decentralize from Hollywood. Even then, local colleges and downtown programs provide networking events, free social events, advertising, and other small business services. Like, there are literally businesses that provide business services. There are businesses whose whole thing is outsourcing offices and management staff and lawyers and stuff like that. That's their whole thing. That's why many local colleges have different social events, college fairs, career fairs, and stuff like that, is to allow the local community to get together and help and service each other. And then this person quote retweeted my tweet and said, like, hey, okay, but we're looking for a realistic solution that can take care of people's financial, housing, and medical needs. This person quote retweeted me, but the sad issue is that I can't reply to this. So I had to make another quote retweet. And then I said again the same thing. Many cities across the US are vastly cheaper than Hollywood. I went over telling them about the low interest loans, the small business grants, office space, other programs. And then I even pointed out that many industry animators already have networks and connections. That's how they get their work to begin with. And then I said all they need to do is change location, source local talent, make an original IP, and then they can start making agreements and deals with platforms to be put on their sites. Netflix has already done that with many Korean shows and other Eastern media. And that's what we see a lot of Netflix's Prime Videos and other streaming services and platforms. Yes, they may have like one or two in-house projects, but for the most part what they're doing is they're collecting IPs and original projects to put on their sites and to put on their services for people to watch. That's why you see a lot of K dramas and Japanese live action shows on places like Netflix, Prime Video, Hulu, and I think even Apple TV is doing that right now. And then they said, with what money, what union, what healthcare, these take millions of dollars to get started. Who's they? We're a bunch of struggling full time artists. Who's going to do this for us? This is why we work with a union. They exist to help and protect us from studios. And then I said, many artists and animators leave home to go cross country to Hollywood and make it big. It's a meme at this point. I'm saying go home, live with your family slash close friends, and use your local government's small business services to start a studio. And then that's when they said, yeah, that won't pay bills. You need like three other jobs to make that work. And that aside, there's no way you'd be able to become successful in the industry for at least a decade at best. It's just not realistic for what our guild is saying we need. You can't just reinvent CN. And then I said, well, that's the issue. People want to make CN 2.0 instead of being the first them. The industry is full of gatekeepers who have to know somebody who knows somebody in order to get their foot in the door. And that's what got the entire industry in the situation it's in now. And that's true. You had a bunch of higher ups, a bunch of people who already made it big, but because they know somebody or because they were able to pull the proper strings, they essentially pulled the ladder up, pulled their close friends, the people they like up, and then they pulled the ladder up from everybody else. And now because you have this society of freaking art boule, like you know how you have the black boule, well this is the art boule. Because you have the art boule who are at the top, they pulled the ladder up from under them. Now they're trying to fight and they're trying to get people who they wouldn't even hire. And that's really the sad truth is many of the people who are fighting for tag right now, more than likely they probably wouldn't be hired, and the only reason why they're fighting for tag is because they think that all these other animators and all these other people in the guild are going to hire them. They're more than likely they're not. That's the sad truth. That's the sad gospel truth is many of the people who are teenagers or who are young adults who are in college or who are in high school doing their little fan art online, they think that they're going to be hired, but these tag people don't care. They're elitists. They're sinful, reprobate elitists who got their station and they said F everybody else. That's the sad truth. And then this person said, oh, this is a great dream scenario, but it's impossible to do within a short amount of time. The industry is dying now. We need studios to work with us now. This isn't the time. And so I just asked flat out, then when will the time be? because the industry had a century. And that's true. The animation industry, the media and entertainment industry had over a century to establish studios across the US, but they did not do that. They wanted to consolidate their power and consolidate their elite status in one city, in one region of California, Los Angeles. And now, because there's this pseudo monopoly of a bunch of small studios who can pick and choose who gets in and who doesn't get in, now they're saying, okay, let's have a stranglehold. Let's make it easier for us to get more profit with less of the work. Let's get more money without as many workers. So now these big companies are saying, like, hey, you guys were foolish. You guys stayed here in California with us. And now, like, you guys have no other choice. If you want to work, if you want to do this, if you want to do that, then you guys have to fall in line and do what we say do. When they could have established more studios and allowed for more jobs and more positions for people. And then I even said, it will take a long time and it will be difficult, but that's the beauty of art, the eternal pursuit to be better than when you were last. And on, I'm getting the same thing. Not all of us want to be studio owners. That's what one person said. Another person actually got mad at me for saying something about it. And they literally said, okay, since you have the money for it, do it. Go ahead, I'll wait. And this is how you know some people are out of touch, because I never once proclaimed I had the money. I said that it is possible to go independent and start your own business. I said, and I try to inform people that there are services for people to start their own businesses. Best believe, and I've said this for a while now, but that's the truth, is I have every intention and I have every plan of starting my own animation studio, of starting my own animation business. And the only thing that is stopping me from doing that right now is my subscriber count. Now, thank God, praise God, I have the views I have the subscribers I have 388, and I thank God every day for helping me and guiding me to build that up. But I'm not foolish. And while I do have faith, even God says to walk with trepidation and walk with care. Yes, walk by faith, but don't be foolish in your faith. So I'm not gonna go to a bank with just 388 subscribers and say, hey, I want to start my own studio. No, I actually need social clout. I need a bigger following. I already have connections. I just need more of that social pull to justify a business loan, to justify getting those grants I need to start my business. And then I also need to get my animation skills up as well. I'm not just telling people to have blind faith. I'm telling people to be careful with their faith. I'm telling people to be careful and to think outside the box and to act and practice with care. And then this person just went on a whole Hinge post. Most creators do make their own stories and try to get pilots made. That can take years, even with a full fan base, animation team, and Kickstarter funding. You're treating individuals as if they have the capital of a corporation while not actually contributing anything yourself. There is no shortage of original stories. These people only saw a small bit of what I said, and they got in their feelings and they went off on me. Okay? These are a bunch of industry folks or wannabe industry folks who don't really think all the way through and they want instant gratification. They think that when I say these things, it's going to be success overnight. No, I never once said that. I never once pushed that. That you're going to have an animation studio, it's going to be up and running, and you guys can start making shows. I never once said that. I never once tried to push that. I said, hey, long term, make your own studios. That's what I've always pushed. That's what I've always tried to get people to do, is to think long term and establish themselves long term. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. But like, these people just want to stay 10 toes down in one place, even though they're falling in quicksand. And I hate to say it, but at this point, I've tried. Like, that's really all that can be said and done is I try to inform people. I try to share service with people. That's really all I can do, is say, hey, maybe this is a bad idea, or hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And whatever they do with that information now is literally up to them. Like, I'm not in the business of forcing people to save themselves. Like, all I can do is provide them with information, and then what they choose to do with that, they can do as they will. I mean, because even the Bible says that there will be folks who are left behind. So, I mean, I did my duty. I did what I could. All I'm going to do now is just keep going on my route, working on my skills, working on my own IPs. And then, hey, like I said, God got me this far. I'll see where else He can take me. It just kind of sucks that I'm being called the visionary. I'm being told that I don't know what I'm talking about, when these folks want to stay in a place that will only get worse for them. Like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. These people think that thank you. Like, even if it's not the destination you wanted to reach, the journey was still worthwhile. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say, is that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's about the desire and the plan to achieve and attain far greater. And it does sound kind of silly, but to an extent, I do thank God for the hardship He put me through, because I'm gonna be honest, if I didn't go through what I went through, if I didn't go through the constant rejection, the constant trying to make things better, the constant, applying to jobs and getting rejected, all of that, then I wouldn't be as strong as I am now. And I'd likely either be in Hollywood right now crying and moaning about the job I had. and I wouldn't even have my family with me because I'd be off in Hollywood somewhere by myself, and I'd be trying to make ends meet, and I'd be on a picket line. But like, I really try hard not to even think about that because I'm just happy and blessed to be where I'm at right now. And like, I'm not gonna lie, like, a part of me is still hurt. Like, that's one of the things with having faith is that you are renewed, you are healed, but sometimes your past pain and your past trauma is kind of like a scar. And I have been reading the Testaments of the Patriarchs, which is this amazing apocrypha that goes into like the history and the sort of final will and testaments of each of the 12 tribes, and how they go over and they lament different sins that they've had in the past. Like Gad, he had much hatred in his liver, and his father Jacob had to pray over him and pray for him, and he had to learn how to seek the Lord and let that hatred and let that anger go, because Gad was the protector and the warrior of the family. And then we have Reuben, who got deep into like sexual sin and stuff like that. But from what I've learned is that you can be healed from your trauma. You can be healed from your past and the difficulties of your past. But sometimes they can not necessarily reopen old wounds, but it's sort of like a scar that you look back on and you say, you know, that happened and it hurt, but I'm still a new and different person. And so, like, am I upset? No, not really. I sort of just go by God at this point, like, but I'm not gonna say that that part of my past didn't affect me. It did, and to an extent, like, it can rear its ugly head, and I can be upset from time to time, but all in all, I am a different and new person. Which is why, as soon as and like, I was gonna go into a spiral, but like, as soon as I said, like, hey, God got me this far, that was when all of like the pain and like the reminders just fell away. And like I said, I've always been a churchgoer. I've always been someone who went to church in my life. But once you plead God, once you plead Jesus, it's like all that pain, all that hatred, all that stuff in the past, it just quells away. And it's like you remember who brought you out of it. And so all I can do now is just pray and keep doing what I'm doing. Because I already tried to tell them, I already tried to inform them like, hey, have your have your have your thing if you want to. Have your whole presentation and make your negotiations if you want to, but it may not give you the results that you want, and it may make it harder for other people. I already did my Christian duty and warned them. Now I just have to keep going down what God has planned for me. Oh, and I do have to preface this like, I feel like I should have said this earlier, but just because I show you guys some tweets or just because I say something, please don't like go into Twitter or X and comment trying to defend me. Like I'm not one of those persons. I'm not one of those people who try to like sick my fans on anybody. No, we don't do that over here. This is a Christian channel. This is a godly space. We're meant to heal and help, not harm. Not over here. I just wanted to share it because it was some sort of conviction or some like hardship on my heart I wanted to share with people. But I mean like that just really goes to show how deep that whole Hollywood mentality and like Hollywood hardship is that it legit has people wanting to stay in a place that is bad for them. Like I personally believe that folks would be maybe not happier, but at least more consistent and calm and put together if they just got out of Hollywood entirely, because that whole place is established on making things more difficult and harder on people than it needs to be. Honestly, yeah, Coral, you're right. Like, X is just horrible. And I mean, I don't know. Like, you get a few gems on X every once in a while. Like, you'll see a funny video, or you'll see like this crazy video about a woman trying to steal a dog, or it is good for information sometimes. Like, you do get to see drama here and there, but for the most part, like, yeah, maybe the world would be better off without X. Like, maybe. Though I would like to mention something that is somewhat related to recent events in our shared fandom. You mean you mean Genshin Impact, or which fandom are you talking about? Oh yeah, X fan art is really good. There is a lot of NSFW though, and I'm like, sometimes you do need to know how to draw anatomy, but still, it can be a bit wild. Some of the anyway, go on about if you're talking about the colorism issue with like the characters, I already know about that. I already know about the colorism. I already know about Genshin Impact and how they're saying, "Oh, it's a fantasy world. These characters aren't real." And I'm just like, dude, you literally named characters off of actual Latin American and African deities. Like you can't be doing stuff like that. So, what were you? Is there anything specific about our shared fandom that you want to talk about, or like what you got for me? Coral, you were gonna say something about Genshin Impact or like a shared fan. I mean, like I already know about like the whole Natland drama. They also said that one of the tribes, which was inspired by Hawaii, was a good tourist destination. Um, in Genshin Impact, they had like a bunch of Swahili and other black people, and even other people of color. Like I think they had some Hawaiians. I don't think they were all Swahili. I think only a few of them were, and then some others were African. But basically, they had them all in this concert type thing, and they had them singing a song in their indigenous language. There was also the matter of the issue of like the CEO of Genshin Impact, like doing this whole thing where he was crying and saying like, "Oh, we need to find our true travelers." I mean, there's really nothing I can say on that other than the wicked will be wicked. Okay, like I hate to say it, but like sometimes the wicked will just be wicked. I was interested to see the extent of the prejudice on the CN side of the fandom, so I read a few research articles while also just looking at the mess on Billy Billy. Like, I hate to be that guy, but some groups in China, as well as just in greater Asia and Korea, have always had prejudice towards black people. There have actually been videos about Asian people asking black people if they've dyed their skin. There are videos of Asian people like rubbing and touching black people because they don't think that their dark skin is real. They'll actually think it's like dirt or something and try to wipe their dark skin off. There have been videos of the past of like there was this Kenyan man who dated, I believe it was a Korean woman or maybe she was Chinese, and some of the men from China actually killed him. I've seen screenshots of translated text like calling black people monkeys. They have this whole thing where if you are Asian and mixed with something else, like if you're Japanese, like it was this whole thing with Osaka, who was like this tennis player. She was Blasian. She was half black, half Asian. I think Japanese to be precise, and her own people thought of her as a foreigner. So I mean, like, the sad truth is those people have a history of anti-blackness. Now, not all of them are like that, but that is something in their culture where they're very inconsistent with how they feel and treat black people. And that's just the unfortunate truth of that matter. Um, Now, what they did with Genshin Impact was very unnecessary because, and here is actually some truth on the matter, but Latin America as well as Africa has a history with the lightening of skin. During the colonialist period, and this is very dark, but there are documentaries, there are letters from sailors and soldiers and conquistadors, there are different accounts, historical accounts, of how what colonialists will do is they would force themselves on the indigenous women, forcing essentially relieving themselves on the indigenous women, and then the progeny from those unions, they would further teach them to enslave the local and indigenous people, essentially multi-generational whiting out of indigenous populations. And that's kind of dark, but that's why you see there's a lot of Latinos and South American descended people who do have lighter skin, is because they are from those whiting out ages and those whiting out practices and times. And Mihoyo does say that they do their research, and my whole issue is that people don't really have the historical knowledge or significance that comes with lightening of skin, because if people actually knew that the reason why skin lightening is a thing is because indigenous women were forced on and their children were taught to further enslave the people, then Hoyle in their right mind could not in good conscience and not in good faith have such light characters for those regions. Blue Camera, I do think, and this is a bit off topic because right now I am talking about Genshin Impact, but Blue Camera, despite everything I've experienced, despite everything I've gone through, I do still think animation is worth it. I just think that animation can no longer be concentrated in one area. If animation is going to survive, then you should not be trying to make it big and live in Hollywood. What you should be doing is decentralizing from Hollywood and establishing your own studios. I am a black man. I do live in America. I do know the hardships that comes with race, as well as just, being a black person in America. But what needs to happen is the industry just needs to be decentralized. Like, folks can't, as much as people want to, folks can't stay in Hollywood anymore. That's just the fact. That's just the truth. You can't stay there. You can't be there anymore. But the sad truth is, some people just want to stay where they're at. People are so used to staying where they are and being where they are that they don't know anything else other than the animation industry in Hollywood. So that's why so many people vehemently oppose making their own studios. People want to just do art, but they don't want to. The main issue with animation and going into media and entertainment as a job and as a career field is that people just want to do that, but people don't want to, or people don't know how to ensure that they, as well as those who come after, can do that for the long term. And not everyone has to start their own studio. Not everyone has to be their own boss. But if they want to make sure that they have a job long term, and if they want to make sure that the industry stays afloat long term, then not everybody, but definitely people do have to make their own business and make their own work. Back in 2020, there was another backlash against African immigrants in China due to the pandemic. And that's really the wild thing about the whole immigrants thing, is because if you actually look at it, China has been going, because China implemented their one child policy, it caused a decline in their birth rates. And so now what many Chinese business people are doing is that they're actually going to Africa to find wives for themselves. Like they're trying to use Africans to repopulate themselves. But because of their own anti blackness, that's not really going to work out for them. And even in Japan, like a lot of Japanese women have talked about getting black men. Like it's a whole thing. If you actually go into the black diaspora, there are constant videos and constant news reports of like China going into Africa and getting African wives, and Japanese women like trying to pay for black husbands and stuff like that to repopulate themselves because their population is in crisis. Like that's just the sad truth. Now for you, Blue Camera, what I will say is that right now the animation industry is in peril and the writing is on the wall. Do not be that guy, do not be that person who tries to move to Hollywood as soon as you get out of high school or as soon as you get out of college. Like, if you think that you're going to work at a coffee shop or something, and then you're gonna find like a studio showrunner and pitch them your idea, that's not gonna work out. That really only happens in movies to sort of further sell the Hollywood dream, but that's not gonna work. What you are gonna want to do is stay hunkered down where you're at right now. Stay with your family. Find a nice local job. It was one of the few times that ex activism was somewhat effective because they lobbied the embassies to speak to the government officials, and they did get response from CCP since Africa is a key trading partner in their plans, for better or worse. And like that's one of the reasons why America is so upset is because America wants to America doesn't like the fact that Africa is making different deals and getting help from other countries, but then America doesn't want to do its due diligences and actually do right by Africa. So what America does is they'll try to put tariffs and even try to fund coups in Africa to tear down leadership. Like Ibrahim Traore, there were like 15 different coups on his life and plots on his life in order to get him taken out. And that's like a whole other discussion that we can have in the future. But like Africa is still getting help from places like Russia and China. It's just when it comes to certain groups, like sadly the Indian groups, as well as some Chinese and even a few Americans, like they treat Africans horribly in their own country. And I hate to say it, but like the African people are separate from Black Americans because Black Americans have went through hardship. They know not to be tested by other groups of people. Oh yeah. Anyway, thank you for stopping by Owoh's Corner. You know, Coral, you're always free to come and go as you please. That's what we do here at Owoh's Corner. I don't try to keep people here for long periods of time and try to pad for watch time. I'm not that kind of person. Just come and go as you please. So, Blue Camera, you can come and go as you please if you truly want to. I'm sorry, I got on a whole tangent with China and Genshin Impact and sort of anti blackness, but what I was saying to you is that do not go to Hollywood thinking you're going to make it big. That's not to say to not have hope, but to go about your plots and plans very carefully and very strategically. Because sadly, Hollywood is a sinking ship. California is a sinking ship. Just on the spiritual level, because I am a person who believes in God, I do follow Christ. And just in the spiritual, like Blue, there have been forest fires, there have been floods, there's a homelessness crisis, there is a job crisis, they're criminalizing homelessness right now, they have a migrant crisis going on, and their own government is giving benefits to illegal immigrants. And so my best bet to you is to hunker down where you are right now, build up your following, build up your skills in animation, and not just animation, but compositing, character art. Try to do things for yourself. If you can or somehow manage to find a way, then do freelance. If not, what you can also do is just work on your online presence while also growing your skills in animation. And then when you feel ready, go independent. Many local governments, many downtown programs provide office space, provide small business loans, low interest loans, small business grants to help people start up their own businesses. And then on top of that, there are also different services with local colleges that will allow people to further make their own businesses. Do not be like all these other people online who are trying to move to Hollywood and make it big. Do not be one of those people. Go at it your own route. And if you're a spiritual person, then pray and trust God. That's what I've done. That's what I've been doing. And I can say that I have escaped much hardship through following and through trusting in God. And I myself have gotten a lot of pushback from other animators. Like literally earlier in the stream, I brought up some some back and forths I had on X on Twitter about how folks were just coming after me because I said, "Hey, decentralized from Hollywood." And it was just full of people who wanted to stay in Hollywood and not really heed my warning. And they have every right. That's why you have to have faith. Like many people say, "Oh, have spite." Like the common thing with animators and artists are people saying, like, "Oh, so and so person didn't believe in me, and I'm only where I'm at now because of spite because I wouldn't be proven wrong." And it's like, I personally don't go with spite. I go with faith. That's how I've gone about it. And with me going by faith, I can definitely say that I have remained mentally well throughout all of this. And what's sad is I see many animators and many people who are engaging in this animation strike, and I guess because they've gone with spite for so long, it's sort of like their soul is deteriorating. It's like you're seeing the breakdown of someone's passion live, and so all they can do is just fight and scrap for what they have. Whereas me, I went by faith, and no, I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm doing things. I'm taking the long route. Like, I'm taking the long and scenic route. And that's what you have to do, especially in these times where things are getting difficult. The whole entire country is going through a hard time right now. There is a housing crisis, folks can't afford to live, companies are constantly laying off workers and employees. So much stuff is happening. And so for me, living with my mother, working a local job, building up and saving up my money, and then slowly but surely building up my platform so that once I do have enough followers and once my skill is to a certain point, I can use that social capital to sort of justify and push my personal projects so that I can start my own studio. Like, that was the way to go for me. I found my way. And now I'm seeing other people who just went with the rest of the crowd. Now they are crumbling, or now they are trying to figure out what to do for themselves. But I will always go by faith. I will always ask God for guidance. And I will always listen to my parents while also sharing with them my own hopes and desires. And in these trying times where things are hard, where things are difficult, really the only thing you have at present is, in fact, your faith, your family, and those you love. And I just drew all of this on one layer. So now I have to I got so distracted, I drew everything on one layer. And now I have to go back and delete all this. But it's all good. That's the beauty of art, is making a mistake and then getting better. That's what makes art so fun, is making mistakes and then you're saying like, "Oh, like I messed up on this. Let me go back through and fix it." But like I said, go with God. That's really all you can do at this point, especially with how difficult things are. And this is coming from someone who has a background in faith, someone with a Christian background. Like my grandmother, she would take me to church every Sunday, every other Sunday when I was growing up. And I read my Bible. I also read some extra books as well, like the Book of Enoch and other sort of apocryphal and pseudepigraphal texts. So I do try to be a bit of a scholar of the word, not just reading the Bible, but going that extra mile to just, read as much as I can, study and meditate on the word as much as I can. But really, in this trying time, the best you can do is just go with faith. And that doesn't mean blind faith of like taking out a $100,000 loan. Go with faith, but use faith in your head. Playing it safe, being patient, and doing what you feasibly can do. It's already been an hour and 45 minutes, and sadly, I do have to get off. Um, I'm helping my uncle with a permit, and it's taking a while, but I thought I'd help him. He's coming at around 1 o'clock, so I do hope you all enjoyed this stream. It was really nice. I got a few things off my chest. You know, I'm still gonna pray on things and just hold true to faith, hold fast to my faith, and look, at the end of the day, whatever happens next is God's will. That's really all I can say on the matter. But yes, I am still working hard, and I'm still trying very hard to work on this teaser to eventually make my own animation studio and just to have something for myself. Because there's a lot of people who don't believe and don't have faith out there, but someone has to have faith. Road to 500 subscribers. Once I reach 500 subscribers, I plan on doing a special extra long live stream. Probably, I want to say 5 hours long, maybe a bit over that. And I'm going to be redrawing one of my old OCs. Road to 1,000. Once I reach 1,000 subscribers, that's when I plan on hosting a special Q&A live stream where you guys can leave down questions and I'll answer them. Any sort of question you have for me, like my favorite color or major inspirations for my art, stuff like that. Anyway, this has been Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. I'll see you guys in my next video or live stream. Bye.